Where's the war on sex trafficking? Hi, my name is Sidney Domkowski and I'm a United States citizen. The United States, specifically Virginia, is the region of the world I have known my entire life. Over the past 22 years, I have seen many beautiful things due to living in this region. Unique views of clear, star-filled skies in the country, the Appalachian Mountains and their wildlife, and many of the man-made wonders such as New York City. Dubbed the freest country in the world, on paper at least, the possibilities of a future in the land of the red, white, and blue are endless. However, I have also seen in the last 22 years, in this course, illicit activity, guns, sex, and drugs, that the United States is not the utopia that our founding fathers were dreaming of when signing the Declaration of Independence. Domestically, addiction has plagued the citizens of America. The United States has become the #1 consumer of illicit drugs. And the opioid crisis death toll is on a tragic rise, especially due to the contamination of fentanyl in almost every popularly used illicit drug. Heroin and opioids are not the only drugs of choice by the American people. Cocaine, methamphetamine, psychedelic/party drugs such as MDA, and many other categories of prescription drugs are abused daily by both adults and youth. On top of such a large issue, there are many other things America faces. Gun laws that have created a necessity for the right for one, but also a world of mass shootings and gun violence, and racial tensions that have led to human rights violations are just two examples. While these threats and issues are domestic, some transcend to be transnational crimes. Most of the drug trade is a result of the Mexican and American border drug trafficking routes. Many opioids are originally sourced from Afghanistan. Outside of drugs, weapons are commonly trafficked out of America and possibly used in conflict against itself in the war on drugs. All these mentioned threats, domestic or transnational, do get heavy media attention. While I have no evidence to back this, I would say that the average American citizen has a baseline common knowledge of the drug problem and at least the southern border's involvement. This has been achieved through the decades-long war on drugs. The war on drugs and the war on terror has the media's attention, and while arguably ineffective in goal succession, it has at least kept the public informed. This brings me to a very important question. What about human trafficking? Where is the war on human trafficking? With our constant attention to the drug crisis in America, our fear of the next 9/11 and the necessity to destroy any group we consider a terrorist, it seems that human trafficking gets pushed back. This video testimony will be exploring this threat by first an explanation of human trafficking and second two personal examples that will hopefully help illustrate the threat to local, regional, and global security that is human trafficking. SafeHorizon.org sums up the basics of human trafficking, which starts with a definition. Human trafficking is the practice of exploiting adults and children for use as commodities or objects in conditions of sexual and labor servitude. This includes forced labor, fraudulent adoptions, and most commonly sex work. While the latter two things are existent and should be considered threats to be dealt with, this testimony will be focusing on sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is a subcategory of human trafficking. Shared Hope International states that sex trafficking occurs when someone uses force, fraud, or coercion to cause a commercial sex act with an adult or causes a minor to commit a commercial sex act. To further explain this, all cases of child commercial sex in the form of pimping or pornography are considered sex trafficking. Sex trafficking always has three main players keeping the business going, which are the trafficker, him or herself, the victim, and the buyer. Without a buyer, there is no market, which is the basis for many people's arguments that there should be more blame and punishment being put on the buyer than there is. Some suggestions have been things like upping buying charges to go under the human trafficking definition. Regardless, most cases of sex trafficking go completely unnoticed, which is mostly due to insufficient research and statistics. Charging sex trafficking as a lesser charge or not detecting it at all, and the average citizen's overall lack of knowledge and misconceptions. The main misconceptions are that sex trafficking is always the ball and chain style captivity and that sex trafficking only affects women, although it does affect women and girls 71% more. Sex trafficking can and has been the stereotype style of trafficking. but the way of coercion is commonly through other sources than kidnapping. The closest common way people are trafficked in the stereotypical way is through what I call the international work style. In this situation, the trafficker will find women who are financially vulnerable and who work in easy industries for trafficking fronts such as beauty salons and massage parlors. They are promised to move from their home country, in this case the United States, to a different country for a variety of promises. The basis of these promises almost always include a place to live and a better paying job, thus seeming like a great opportunity. This is until they arrive at their destination country to be stripped of personal identification and money and forced into sex labor. In some instances, that country is not even the destination country, as many are shipped to other countries as what seemed like the original destination, which was just a transit site. Not all cases are transnational. This same situation can take place anywhere in the United States. Another common way people get coerced into sex trafficking is through the boyfriend pimp method, which is at its simplest when someone develops a sexual relationship with someone with the intentions of coercing them into sex labor. This is done through the creation of trauma bonds, which is why at-risk youth are at some of the most targeted. We will further get into this in one of the personal examples. For the following two examples, I will be leaving out any personal information besides states in hopes of these individuals' privacy. Neither of these two examples has happened to me, but people I know. As mentioned before, I have some personal experience with the boyfriend pimp scenario. The female in this story I am going to refer to as X. To understand that the threat of sex trafficking can truly happen to anyone, let's get some background on X. X was a star student in high school with perfect grades in multiple schools offering scholarships. She was also on a very renowned robotics team that won many awards and tournaments. Finally, she was an excellent basketball player who was on both her school's team and AAU teams. Everything seemed to point towards X living a very productive and fruitful life. That is until the day she met her boyfriend pimp. She developed a relationship with this man who was at minimum 10 years older than her. Let's remember that she was right at the end of high school, who inevitably started prostituting her. Being an intelligent individual, she recognized the cycle quickly and was able to escape. However, due to the trauma bonds created between her and her pimp, she soon went back to him, where he would then make her his right-hand girl and move to Florida. Now in Florida, still being prostituted, X gained more responsibilities, which included coercing other girls into joining the prostitution ring. This would prove to be their downfall, as one underage girl was coerced by X from North Carolina to come to Florida and managed to escape after finding out their plans of prostituting her. This led to charges for everyone involved, but ended in lesser non-sex trafficking charges, and X herself getting charged and prosecuted as well, although being a victim. The second example is another teenage girl who we will call Z, who is on the other side of the spectrum, freshly starting high school. Z struggles with her gender identity and made these struggles known at school. The school took this seriously and allowed for any accommodations to Z, but made one drastic mistake. They failed to inform Z's parents of any gender dysphoria which Z herself had also been hiding from them. This could be one of the explanations for why Z started making a bubble for herself online, which led her to meeting older men. The details of this case are not as known as X's, but we do know she was trafficked. She was taken from VA by a man met online and trafficked to Texas, where she was found by marshals. The parents were in complete darkness of the entire situation, not even knowing that she had changed gender identities till her first incident of running away, which was only months before this mentioned occasion. In conclusion, human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking, is commonly misunderstood and does not get the media attention attention needed. This is largely due to 9/11 and the War on Terror, the rising issue of the opioid crisis, and the war on drugs. The two examples mentioned are personal examples that I hope help explain how anyone can be affected by sex trafficking, both people at risk and non-risk people. Deliver Fund states it is estimated that between 15,000 to 50,000 women and children are forced into sexual slavery in the United States every year, and the total number varies widely as it is very difficult to research. One study from the Department of Health and Human Services estimated the number between 240,000 and 325,000, while a report from the University of Pennsylvania put it at between 100,000 and 300,000. I find this unacceptable. How can we help curb the problem with such conflicting statistics? We must better research the issue of human trafficking so that we can get the public better informed and help stop sex trafficking. Thank you for listening.